there's a lot of liquidity, or there was a lot of liquidity. It's very important. If you have like a token that is illiquid, then it is not that worthy. Comparable to like startups, like for example, startups are having a lot of issues with liquidity. Like if you have been one of the like very first employees at Uber or Airbnb or something like that, you have to wait like 8 years or like 10 years to be able to cash out on those shares. And so with this model, we basically solve liquidity. And then also, I mean, ICOs funded years of research and development. Like in our case, for Argon, we had our token sale in 2017. And now, like, we've done all this research and implementation and kind of contributed back to the Ethereum ecosystem with a lot of frameworks and tools. And that was the token sale money that allowed us to do that. We thought that we wouldn't be here today. Some payouts, which led to a bunch of scams. Basically, you get $30 million upfront, no vesting, no nothing. You literally get $30 million all of their participants. And so that was obviously very good. Impossible to, I mean, here's like difficult to recover funds. I think it's like probably possible. You can go to court, but the court that you go to doesn't have the multi-sig keys or like the Ethereum keys or your funds. So I actually do that. I don't want to tell about them. But like, if you want to get listed into major exchanges today, you have to do like 7 figures for that to happen. And so that's a lot of money for just liquidity and also basically a bribe. So in a world where we are supposed to actually decentralize things and remove money in the middle, it's kind of ironic that we're doing kind of the opposite, and we're like literally like bribing some exchanges to be listed. And also, if you're not in these exchanges, if you don't want to pay this bribe, that you have low liquidity issues because you don't have the liquidity that participants would like for you to have in order to like get in and get out of the network and buy tokens. You also have the issue right now that all tokens, especially ERC20 tokens, are linked to ETH in terms of price. So when ETH fluctuates, all the ERC20 tokens basically fluctuate. There are a couple of tokens, but that's it. And also, ICO also attract a lot of like short-term speculators. Like you could see this kind of part of the year in 2017, when people would like get into an ICO and then literally wait like 2 days and dump their tokens. So kind of literally like a pump and dump. And that's obviously fun for trolls and stuff like that, but not fun for or not useful in the long term for creating valuable technology. And so the question that we ask ourselves is, how can we really change the dynamics in a way that we can raise capital like ICOs, which again are wonderful by themselves. So there's nothing wrong in them. This is more on the human side. System and state in a very similar way that if you want to raise money from anyone in the world in a global fashion, you just cannot do it using the legal system. There are so many barriers, the KYC stuff, all of those things that just make it impossible. And then there was just a lot of fraud and stuff like that. So they recognized that maybe they could benefit by mitigating it. And then basically a lot of other financial markets follow the path similar to the London Stock Exchange. And that's basically what's happening right now. Like there's a significant portion of capital in the world that has no way to operate in the existing system, so it looks for a new system. And right now, if you look at the capital that is going on and out in crypto, it's really a lot of money, and part of it's actually being used to fund research. So how can we keep this going? I don't think we need to shut down token sales. I don't think we need to shut down innovation. We need to do the opposite. And so their solution in this case was quite interesting. So basically, it was self-regulated. So these stock market traders would create would meet in stock houses and then kind of form private clubs to create and enforce rules between them. And then they kind of created more and more technology around it. Technology, I mean, I would say technology centuries ago, which is different to the technology we create. But let's say ways in which they understood each other and kind of social contracts, subscription fees, membership requirements. And then, of course, this self-regulation means that someone who doesn't follow those rules gets kicked out. And so, of course, they kind of created here this parallel legal system where if you don't really serve your membership rules well, you kind of get kicked out, but you don't really have to go to court or stuff like that. It's like a parallel system almost. And so we thought about how can we have something similar. We don't want to have global dystopian regulation. We don't want to have a nation state telling us how a project can raise funds and how they can't. Because we've seen this with the US and the SEC, that theoretically they want to protect investors, and that's where you have a lot of these accredited investors rules. So people who earn less than X amount of money, they cannot buy stocks, they cannot invest into startups and stuff like that. But that also threatens a lot of population. Because if you look at Bitcoin, if you look at these cryptocurrencies, they allow for mainstream audiences to actually profit and be part of that value creation from the early days, versus decades ago where you will only be part of this value creation if you were a VC. and you had a strong network, and you could like call Steve Jobs and be like, hey, I want to invest in like Apple Series A or Series B round. And so now with cryptocurrencies, we can actually give access to a lot of people in the world, basically everyone in the world who knows how to use a computer to actually buy these networks. So we've been working on our very own fundraising application. I want to say this is an application on Aragon, so this is not that Aragon is fundraising. Aragon is not fundraising. But we want other people to fundraise. And so it is an Aragon application. You see here the beautiful Aragon interface. All of those apps in the left, the home app, the boarding app, that lets people vote and govern their organizations, their finance app, that is like the bank account of the DAO, the payroll app, all these things. And fundraising is going to be a new application. And so the cool thing about fundraising is that it allows for long-term funding, it allows for liquidity, and it allows for accountability. How? Well, so this is the setup when you create a new fundraising using Aragon fundraising. And so basically you have here multiple settings. So for example, the target goal of your pre-sale terms, you can have a pre-sale term, and then once that ends, you have like this kind of continuous sale using a bonding curve. So basically, the TLDR for this bonding curve mechanism is that you have first a pre-sale, like a pretty similar pre-sale to what we are using in the kind of ICO world. And then once that's done, then you have this continuous fundraising mechanism, which basically creates liquidity for your token in a decentralized way, similar to how Uniswap works to some extent. And then people can buy in and buy out. If you have more people who buy in, then this reserve of funds from the project goes bigger and bigger. If people sell, this reserve goes down a little bit. And the cool thing is that the funds are actually held by the DAO, and gradually there's a tap rate, which I think you see somewhere around there, which basically allows for the team that is working on this project to actually get paid, be able to pay their employees and stuff like that. But they get this tap in a continuous way. It's like these are small drops of funding instead of just like letting all the water flow, right? So you have these kind of continuous funding instead of like having this lump sum funding. And the cool thing is that token holders at some point they can be like, well, this thing is not really delivering, they're scamming us, so let's cut funding. But yeah, this is very, very easy to set up. I mean, there are some parameters that obviously need to be tweaked, but it's very, very easy to set up. You literally do this, do one click, and you have your fundraising live. So as I was saying, like there are two different pools, the reserve and the discretionary. And so basically the reserve is like where all the money is, like the big money, let's say, when there's a fundraising event. And then the discretionary is the one that the team controls. And so basically token holders have to allow for this team to receive money in the first place. So if they are not delivering for some reason, or if they are scamming token holders can actually cut that. And so this is the bonding curve. So basically what this means here is that, for example, right now the price of the token is like $800. There's this market cap, it's traded volume. At least traded volume here in the decentralized sort of exchange that is created by Aragon Fundraising. You may still have your token listed on any traditional exchanges or other decentralized exchanges. Token supply and the reserves. And so the reserves, what that means there is that basically, since people have been putting money into the curve, people have been putting money buying tokens, each time that happens, there's a percentage that goes into those reserves. And so basically you just have more and more reserves, and then when you sell, what you do is actually you take money out of the reserves. So the cool thing here is, because you may be asking yourself, but the team is going to eventually basically withdraw the reserves because they need to pay salaries, and over time the reserve is going to kind of tend to be zero. And so there are two answers here. First of all, in traditional kind of evolution of startups and evolution of projects, what you have is like an initial investment, and then after that what you have usually is that people burn the money in a sense for creating real value. And so here you may have this token, let's call it we can call it, I don't know, the core token. And so this token here, in the beginning, it may raise $1 million, for example. And so this $1 million goes into the reserve pool. And so each time you buy, you are giving more money to the reserve pool, and when you sell, you are taking it out. And so, of course, there's also this tap that sends money to the team, so they can do payroll, they can hire people, they can execute on the vision. But over time, what's going to happen is that this team is going to deliver, and so this team is going to deliver something. Let's say, for example, they're building a blockchain, and so if they are building a blockchain with this money, they are going to deliver the blockchain, and then the value of this token is actually going to be the value of the token in that blockchain, so that use case. So basically, you are turning this initial investment into something valuable, and in the beginning, this is just valuable because you can get part of the reserves with your token. You can sell your token and get part of your reserves back. But over time, this token appreciates because they build the product that they promised, and then ultimately it's only valuable because of that. And that's the monthly allowance parameter. So basically, this team here will have like 10K to spend on development. And then how to support projects. So we're working on this very, very cool platform, which is going to be similar to like Kickstarter in terms of user experience. So basically here you may have a decentralized project, and then you have like a big fat button, which is like support this project. And then after that, you can just directly buy from here. And we're also working on discovery platforms, so basically people and newcomers can actually discover projects. It would be very cool to have some kind of curation, so we can actually show users things that are not scams. I mean, with this platform, with this Aragon fundraising platform, it's very hard to do a scam because, like, literally token holders have all the control, so you cannot just get your money and run because of how the system works. But I still want to have this curation platform to ensure the highest quality projects. And then you can also just go to the Aragon app, create a new order there. So you say, I want to buy 85 tokens using DAI or AUT, which are 2 tokens that are allowed by default on Aragon fundraising. And then if there's an investing period that the project may want to impose, for example, let's say I want to have like very long-term aligned token holders, such as a vesting period that everyone that buys must buy and hold for a year, for example. So then if you vest, you are able to sell. And if there's no vesting, you can just sell immediately. And that's like literally 2 clicks. Like you have there the new order button, and then buy and sell, and you do it from this interface, fully decentralized. Like Aragon, the team behind Aragon cannot really do anything to shut this down. It's a fully decentralized app. Even all of the user experience here is actually loaded from IPFS, so it's fully decentralized. There's no way we can shut this down, which is the magic of it. It's just open source software, and you can use it to do whatever you want. And then you can also vote to release funds to the team. And so obviously as token holder, you will have to monitor that things are going great. The team is working, the team is delivering. This can take many different forms. This can be for crypto projects. So like if someone again is building a blockchain, you may run the testnet or the test client and you're like, wow, this works. I'm gonna release more funds to this team. Or maybe this team is just working on making a video, for example, and you see the preview of the video or like the mock-ups for the scenery and you're like, wow, this is great. And you keep funding the team. And so I think it's important to get into this kind of mentality that we are not just passive participants, we're active. And so when you get into a project, you also have the power to vote and influence it over time. And then you can also, as I said, so tokens back to the project. And so you get a proportional amount of the reserve funds whenever you want. So this is not like you put your money and then, ooh, maybe these people are like going to buy Lambos and Ferraris and then I'll spend my money again. It's actually the opposite. Like you put it in and then the team starts receiving slowly the funds. You have to vote to approve this to happen. And then if even with that, if at some point you don't believe in the project anymore, or you just want to sell because you're happy with your profit or anything like that, then you can sell back. And then you get like part of the reserves in the pool back. And so, of course, like if there is more interest in the project over time, there are going to be more people buying. And so essentially what they're going to be doing is they're going to be funding the project. I think that's very cool compared to just buying in like traditional centralized exchanges or even decentralized exchanges. Is that with this bonding curve mechanism, each time you buy or you sell, you're effectively signaling how the project is working. Because if it's working very well, people are going to buy. And if they buy, they're going to give more funds for this team to work and for making the project successful. And if the team is not doing that well, you can always sell, and the team like gradually loses funds. And so, like if we put this in a table and we compare all of these kind of mechanisms, so we have like some attributes, for example, how funds are being disbursed. And so with ICO, it's like lump sum, like you have all of your funds up front and that's it. With fundraising, it's based on milestones, so the team can gradually request more and more funding. If you're a token holder, how easy can you recover your funds? Well, ICO hard / impossible, and Aragon fundraising fairly easy. Just sell your tokens back to the bonding curve. Transparency, well, I mean, there's some projects that have done a lot of effort to make some transparency in their finances. For example, if you go to transparency.aragon.org, we have this beautiful dashboard with a lot of our transactions displayed, so token holders can actually know how we're spending this money. But unfortunately, I think only Aragon does this really. So with Aragon fundraising, we made sure that everything is transparent by default. So you can go to the finance app on the left in this DAO, and basically see all the finances, see how the team is spending their money. And then in terms of course, accountability, it's very, very different because token holders have always the power in this new fundraising mechanism. Liquidity, this is very, very cool. In ICOs, like you either get listed or that's it. And so that's why exchanges can actually afford to have these huge bribes to get tokens listed. With this new model, the bonding curve is the one that guarantees liquidity. So at any time, at any point in time, even if the token is not listed in any traditional or decentralized exchange, you can go to the bonding curve and exchange it, which I think is very cool because we're going to have, I mean, with this use case, we're going to see a lot of high growth projects But also we're going to see a bunch of like small stuff, like, you know, you want to create your own fundraising for your trip to the US, or like you want to create a fundraising for doing a meetup, feel free to do so. And then you have instant liquidity for your tokens. And then treasury asset. With ICOs, it was like ETH, which is probably a very bad asset for fundraising, very volatile. With Aragon fundraising, you can use DAI, which is, as you know, a stable coin pegged to the dollar, so it's extremely stable. And then in terms of incentives, ICOs is more like short-term speculation.
On the personal computer days from Alan Kay, that had, if you're really serious about your software, you should build your own hardware. And what it means is that in order to control the full experience and to give your users the maximum best thing that you can give them, you really need to care about the entire stack. Fortunately, nowadays we won't have to build like the Aragon operating system, although we have something that's called Aragon OS, but it's very different from a computer operating system, nor build our own hardware. But from Aragon, a project that up until now was just working at the application layer, we've decided to go down the stack and also control the layer 1, so we can provide users the absolute better experience that we can deliver now. But first of all, like Aragon really does love Ethereum. I really cannot stress this enough. The state of the Aragon community and the project wouldn't have happened if Ethereum didn't happen. I don't think at any other point in history the Aragon project could have been so successful so quickly if it hadn't been because of Ethereum and the ability to fundraise money from anyone in the world. I think this is like a total truth. But there's also a point that we really need to take matters into our hands and deliver, because at the end of the day we have a commitment with AMT holders, not so much with ETH holders and the community, even though we're really close to them. Some of the things that we've given back to the community, important projects such as Aragon OS or RADSpec, which we believe to be common infrastructure. We also run the Aragon Nest grants program that Maria actually started and managed for the first year. And this was like before all the grants program, before the EF had the current grants program, before the ACF. And we gave money, for example, to Prismatic Labs when they were working on the sharding implementation, when it was like just started. So we've given a lot back to the community, and we plan on continuing doing this. But most importantly, we're really not leaving Ethereum. We're just building another platform to deploy Aragon 2, where we believe it's going to be way better than Ethereum, because it's a platform that is built for Aragon's needs. But we're not leaving Ethereum. We have plans to continue supporting Ethereum for a very long time, potentially also migrating to ETH2 whenever that happens. But the problem with ETH2 is that it's really 2 to 3 years away. The Beacon chain will launch early next year, I have no doubt about that. But in terms of reaching feature parity with the current Ethereum mainnet and the features that you would need to run Aragon, it's really 2 to 3 years away. I would take a bet with anyone here that Ethereum 2.0 won't be usable by app developers before mid-2021. And my personal prediction is that it will happen by early 2022. And Aragon really cannot wait. We need to find product market fit. Aragon fundraising has a chance of being very used by a lot of people, and we really cannot make Ethereum be the bottleneck for Aragon success. We need to take matters into our hands and go down the stack, do something that we didn't expect we would have to do, but at the end of the day, it's our duty to our community. In terms of what's happening with Ethereum specifically that is problematic for Aragon, first of all, is that it's very expensive. Gas prices are kind of fucked up. They can go up. No. It's like when people ask me like, how much does it cost to use Aragon? I'm like, I don't know. And they look at me and they think that I'm stupid, but I really don't know, and I cannot give them an answer, because if like the newest Ponzi scheme launches like next week, gas prices can go up by 100x, and this wouldn't be the first time that this happens. And then our users would be paying for this like profitable opportunity that people are playing a Ponzi scheme on Ethereum. It's like really problematic. From like crypto people may be used to this, but can you imagine going to a corporation or like someone in the web 2 and be like, why is your app so slow and so expensive? And you're like, oh no, these people are running a scam, so once they're done, maybe it's like 100 times cheaper. It's like very problematic if you think about it outside of the crypto magic internet money lens. And that's the main issue. Like, it's unpredictable and it will get very expensive. When we had the ICO boom of 2017, Ethereum wasn't full. The ICOs got it full, and like gas prices hiked a little bit. If there's another bull market, now that Ethereum is running at around 90% capacity, and you really cannot scale more because we have these state issues that is growing a lot, and then you start having like issues with miners if you just like increase the capacity a lot. So if there were to be another hike in use for Ethereum, shit's gonna get really expensive. Like, maybe I'm wrong, but I expect that we will see at least at some point 100 to 1,000x in gas prices, and then the ETH price will probably go up as well. So we can be talking about 3 to 4 orders of magnitude, and that's like absolutely crazy. The people that need Aragon the most cannot afford to pay $1,000 or $10,000 for their organization. At that point, I would recommend them just go to your lawyer and create a normal, like, legal entity, like, just don't use Aragon. So it's like very, very problematic. And then, like, Ethereum, even though there's people that say ETH is money, Ethereum is a developer platform. And let's be real about it. ETH, it's probably money, but it's a developer platform, and there's like a lot of developers building on the platform, and it has issues. There's this issue with, like, when people set the gas price, like the gas price for the job code on the virtual machine, they did the best they could with the data that they had. And once the stake has been growing, for example, some of them were mispriced and they're more expensive than the computation, like all the computation that needs to be done. And this is a problem. This is a security issue in Ethereum if, like, some opcodes are mispriced. And then there was like the CIP that decided to fix this, which I totally support, but it just broke 5,000 of our own contracts for something that we really didn't do wrong. There's like this hack at the protocol level called the value gas stipend that was included when the DAO hack happened, and it's a hack. People acted very rushed to prevent that from happening, but we didn't do anything wrong, and they're breaking our contracts. We told them, this is going to break our shit. And they were like, we're sorry, we are breaking your shit, but we have to do it. And they broke our shit. So that's the issue when you have a developer platform that you cannot really rely on. It's not like Twitter that changes their strategy and they decide to cut down your application. But it's almost even worse, because it's like developer platform that you're building on top, like, can just change the rules and you can break your application. And if you didn't build like a readability mechanisms like most projects did, it just breaks your contract and it can stack millions of dollars. It's like very, very dangerous. And with our own chain, we set the rules for our developer platform, and that will not happen. We will not make a hard fork that breaks your shit because it's our chain, and we're not going to break our chain. And eventually, we owe it to the holders and the Aragon community. That's the people that we work for. Ethereum community has been very helpful. We love everyone. We had an amazing time at DevCon, but the Aragon community is who we work for and who we owe it to them. So, introducing Aragon Chain. Aragon Chain is proof of stake blockchain that uses Enderman consensus that will believe that on launch day, our estimates are 3 to 10x more throughput than the current Ethereum mainnet. We put 10x because it's the optimistic one, but I think it will definitely be between 3 and 10x. So it's like all the capacity of Ethereum mainnet just for Aragon, which is great, which means that because of the use that we're having right now, blocks are not going to be full, therefore it's going to be so cheap, almost free to run Aragon in a way that we can pay for people, because it's going to be like literally fractions of cents. We'll also deliver Ethereum-style proof of stake to an EVM-compatible chain before Ethereum, and it will be like 1 to 2 years before. So that's also very powerful, because if there are other applications in the space that have some of our issues, that maybe a lot of them don't realize it, but they will, they can just come to Aragon Chain. We're nice people, and we'll probably won't break their shit. Then also it allows us to capture value for ANT holders. Like, no one really knows where value is going to accrue on Web3. You have like different rationales going, like it's going to be like fat protocols, the protocol level is going to capture everything, and other people are like, oh no, it's like application layer, and some people are like, oh no, it's like these service providers that package the application of the protocol and sell it to users. Like no one even knows. Like the current crypto prices are not based on fundamentals. I'm sorry to break this to you, are based on like a meme war. So whoever makes the best memes wins. But this cannot be extended forever. So Aragon Chain is a good hedge. Like if value ends up accruing at layer 1, we'll accrue there. If it accrues at layer 2, we'll accrue there. And if it's at another layer, we'll make sure we can accrue it there. So this is a hedge on that regard, and allows us to scale vertically and also horizontally and beyond any other chain. Also, the Aragon community governs upgrades to the chain. We're still hashing out what's our stance regarding on-chain governance for this chain, but there will probably be a governance component, knowing us. And also it will be interoperable with other chains, including Ethereum. A lot of people are kind of mad at us, or they're like, oh, you're stupid, you're leaving everything behind. We'll build a bridge that kind of works like this. We want to have a bridge for 2 use cases. The most important one, being able to transfer tokens from Ethereum mainnet to Aragon Chain, so any ERC20 or ETH can be transferred to Aragon Chain, and it will control a smart contract for Ethereum, so the DAO will effectively be controlling another contract, so it can like open a CDP, lend money on Compound, or whatever you may want to do, and all is controlled from Aragon Chain, where it's very cheap to operate. As I said before, we're building this on Cosmos SDK. The most important part for us was not breaking Aragon app, like the Aragon app ecosystem. People are building stuff on EVM. We've built all of our stuff on EVM. So what we want to do is like build an EVM compatible chain, deploy all our stuff, and then maybe migrate that at some point in the future, which I will get into later. But we won't be breaking anything. We're gonna be basically running a chain that is as similar to Cosmos App as we can. One, because there are a lot of validators on Cosmos App, and we want to make it so that if you're validated on Cosmos App, you will need to download another binary, but it will be fairly okay, both in terms of technical infrastructure and like mindset. It's like, okay, this is very similar to what you're doing on Cosmos. Also, by using Ethermint, we get an API for Ethereum JSON RPC, which means that we will be able to reuse a lot of infrastructure almost for free. Like someone was like, oh, you're stupid, you're breaking like compatibility with wallets and block explorers. And I was like, yeah, but we really can adapt any of this infrastructure probably in like 2 days by any decent developer. So it's like we're building the interop layer at the full node layer. And we're also very excited about IBC from Cosmos to launch, and that will allow us to have like an easier bridge to Ethereum mainnet through the Ethereum backzone instead of like just rolling our own bridge, and also to other zones in the Cosmos app, which seems very promising. And we believe that this is being built by the best. We're going to engage with the chains that will actually ChainSafe created a governance proposal, an AGP, that's going to be voted on the next Aragon network vote, which will start on October 31st. And they submitted an AGP, which is, it's AGP 106. So that AGP will go in the ballot, and if ANT holders approve it, then ChainSafe will start building Aragon chain immediately, which is really, really exciting. And they also wrote a report doing a feasibility study comparing Cosmos versus Polkadot for building Aragon chain, and it's a really interesting report. It's linked in the blog post about Aragon chain. And I mean, I don't do deadlines or dates anymore, but I think it's like I'm really excited by the dates that ChainSafe has given us, and they seem more serious about dates. So I'm just gonna break it. We intend to launch Aragon chain testnet by Q1 2020, and if no major issues are found, we should be able to go live with mainnet in the first half of the year. So in terms of economics and security, because we're going to be running a totally sovereign chain using Cosmos SDK, we need to ensure the security of the chain. So we're going to be creating another token called ARA, which is going to be just a pure staking token for the chain. So only validators for the chain should buy this token or convert their ANT into this token. We're actually going to be using Aragon fundraising in the background for generating this token, just so the tap rate that Luis was explaining, or like the ability to have a team building stuff and getting money out of the reserve will probably be disabled, so ARA will be backed by ANT effectively. And ANT benefits from ARA appreciation. As I said before, if you plan on being an Aragon chain validator, get ARA. If you don't and you just want to speculate, you'll probably be better off just holding ANT and speculating on ANT than using ARA. This is because ANT is gonna accumulate the value that is produced by all these other service protocols.